So I was a badminton player back then. I'm not familiar with the movie.
And what level did you play with Anindya?
I played at the national. That cost somewhere around 1400.
I think that's what the movie Saina as Saina, which I think Parinita Chopra played as Saina. And
Badminton is still an expensive sport. It's good now.
Badminton is one sport where we do better than other sports.
पढ़ाई लिखाई से कोई रिश्ता नहीं था मेरा उनसे.
but the risk level, because you can get injured anytime and that's the end of your career, which is not.
And I hear that the Olympics, India is doing good in badminton. And what made you choose to go to Ashoka and not to Delhi University?
So a couple of reasons. One was, of course, I was attracted to its model of education. I wanted to try it out. My cousin was studying there and she had a lot of good things to say about it. So that's what she introduced me to the university. The second thing was that since I was playing, so I was a badminton player back then. And for me, that was like my main career. Ashoka would allow me to explore that while being in touch with my academics, whereas other colleges like say DU, most colleges have an attendance system where a certain percentage of attendance is compulsory, which makes it hard to balance it with sports. It was between that and Ashoka for me, and then I ended up choosing Ashoka.
You actually got admitted to Stephens?
Yeah, sports quota. My 10th and 12th grades were horrible, so sports quota all the way.
So tell me, the sports quota, did you play for the state or did you play for the Union Territory of Delhi?
And
yeah,
so badminton that you mentioned.
Yeah, badminton. Yeah. So yeah, I was representing Delhi, and then the All India University. Now at Halo India, there we would represent our colleges.
And I hear that the Olympics, India is doing good in badminton this year, right?
They're doing all right, and they do okay every year, every Olympic.
Badminton is one sport where we do better than other sports.
So I think वो PV सिंधु पे सबके वो hopes टिके हुए हैं कि शायद कोई medal मिलेगा, gold, silver, bronze, depending on the luck of the draw.
So how is the sports infrastructure in India?
It's good now. Back when I was playing, especially during my schooling years, it wasn't that great. It's become way better now, especially with the advent of Halo India, and there's a bunch of other sponsorships, there's a bunch of other academies that have opened up. But back then, there used to be a dominance of mostly two academies, which was Gopichand and Prakash Padukone. Now you see like large-scale academies in almost every state, or if not other academies, Gopichand has opened branches across the country. So now it's there. The accessibility factor is there, but badminton is still an expensive sport to keep up with if you don't have a sponsorship. So to give you an example, a feather shuttle, like a shuttlecock ka ek jo dabba hota hai, one team, that costs somewhere around 1400. And if you're playing twice a day, you'll probably use at least 3/4, if not the entire. So not a lot of people can afford.
One day you will use 3-4 tubes?
No, one tube. 3/4 or one entire tube.
Oh, okay.
So one tube
in a day. Oh, wow.
One tube in a day तो हो ही जाएगा.
कौन सी मूवी थी वो परिणीता वाली, which had that kind of biographical movie on badminton. I think that's what the movie Saina as Saina, which I think Parinita Chopra played as Saina, and they showed that whole cost of playing badminton. Is that right, Anindya?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the movie. मैंने तो नहीं देखी वो movie, but it is a costly sport because 1400, if you're still saying 1000 a day की भी shuttle views होना, that's 30,000 a month. Then on top of that you have coaching fees, which are usually if you're playing 2 sessions a day, morning, evening, so they'll take at least 8 to 10K. So that's हो गया उसका 40 हो गया. Then there's your other expenses like or racket expenses also not exactly one time because the better you start playing, your rackets will go frequently. So like usually the top range rackets they start from 8K, and you can expect to use like 2 rackets a year. Like you spend at least 2 rackets a year. So that's another cost. फिर उसके बाद traveling का वगैरह जितना भी है. Tournaments के लिए तो going to all India tournament में always different locations. So traveling, accommodation, until you have gotten a sponsorship from either a company or your state, and state sponsorship happens only if you win your state level tournament. इसमें तब तक में तो खर्चा काफी रहता है. So there's a lot of people who end up dropping out because of the expenses involved.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
And what level did you play with, Anindya?
I played at the national.
Nationals. And did you drop out because of cost or some other reason?
I did manage to get a sponsorship early on, so then cost wasn't a big factor. But I got injured in 2020, which is why I then ventured towards CAT and NBA. But now, पढ़ाई लिखाई से कोई रिश्ता नहीं था मेरा.
I would never about sport, isn't it? So I did what I hear, and some close people who are still playing sport is people say that okay, Virat Kohli earns X millions and so some other sport person earns so many millions. But the risk level, because you can get injured anytime and that's the end of your career, which is not so in a corporate career. If you fall sick, yes, you'll come back. You'll come back in 1 month. You'll come back in 2 weeks if you fall sick. But in a sport, that's the end of your career. That's it.
Fair. But I see, I agree and disagree with you in one sense. Of course, that injury risk is there in sports. But like you could say that for any field ki kabhi bhi kuch bhi ho sakta. Also, like if you look at the corporate wala side also. So there's very few people who actually end up making it to the top. Very few people who actually end up making it to a good B school. So the risk factor is always there, and how physical injury is one thing. But a lot of players that I know, I mean, they've dealt with injuries, they've come back and done even better than. So it depends on the scale of the injury, the type of the injury. So my injury was such that even with a procedure, it couldn't be healed. I got a cartilage tear. So cartilage tear means, in my shoulder. So that is pretty much it. But it's not that common. Mostly, like the common types of injuries you would see is ligament tear or ankle dislocation, something of that sort. I think those 6 months to 8 months, you can come back.
Hey, how did the cartilage tear happen? Did that happen just while you were playing?
Yeah, it happened during training. And then uske baad, for a few months I was in limbo where like I was going to a bunch of different doctors. Everybody had something else to say. Some were saying ho jayega, some were saying nahi hoga. But then after the procedure and after all the visits, then it was concluded that okay, this is not going to work out because I realized I can't rotate my shoulder fully. So while I don't have any problems in my day-to-day, I can still work out, I can still go to the gym and everything. But if I can't rotate it, I can't play badminton professionally. So then I think this happened around like February of 2020, then which was my last year of my UG. So then my parents were like, okay, UPSC